What's wrong with having a simple amendment saying that the yearly budget of the United States will be balanced each and every year? Am I being too simple? What's the problem with that?
I have from this same document, I have the 10 years the CBO has forecast, and then the next 20 years to 2040. And the average amount of non-published debt increase, the unpublished deficit, is about $200 billion a year. So if we have a balanced budget amendment, the debt keeps going up. And as the debt keeps going up, the interest keeps going up. And pretty soon we're going to start paying some decent interest rates.
But this proposal deals with both. This proposal says that you have to have the same threshold. So in other words, you have to, for increasing the debt limit, you've got to come to a vote to increase the debt limit at the 3/5 threshold as the same as going into deficit spending. So I absolutely, I think the debt is actually much more significant than the deficit, because the deficit is just that number on the annual basis. Right. But the debt is the big issue. If we, quite frankly, did nothing more than balance the budget, which is significant in and of itself, but did nothing about the debt, it would eventually eat our lunch. Just the same as
the debt will eat our lunch. That is what we. Even though this year in my home expenses, I spent as much as I made. I didn't put anything else on the credit card.
Right.
I had so much left on the credit card that just keeps growing thanks to the interest.
So the proposal that is by Bobby Bright, Congressman Bobby Bright out of Alabama, that's the competing proposal with this.
Alabama's still a state?
Oh, yeah. I'm glad it is. Wonderful people down there, turning red. That what they do is it's clever, because they take the debt limit off the table, and they take entitlement spending off the table. And entitlement spending, no matter, if you try and address this just through discretionary spending, you will never get there. You will have to practically eliminate the whole budget. So you have to take into account entitlement spending. And to say that, I think that's disingenuous for Democrat leadership to say that we can do this.
But as long as we take the biggest portion of the budget, take it off the table, we can take care of everything else.
It just can't happen. And not address the debt, as Fred has said.
All right. See, what I would like to see is a drop the debt legislation with teeth.
What would that look like?
Well, it would just say that you can go to FMS, which is a financial management system. It's a Department of the Treasury that every month reports the budget figures. And if you look at the fourth line on the second page, it has year to date. And so if you compare the year to date this year to last year, you can just say, if you want to just stop the debt growing, is year to date this year $200 billion less than they spent last year? Not more, but less. And then if that was the case, then we give Congress, all of them, a hand. But I'd like to, if I get caught speeding out here and the guy comes up behind me, he doesn't go around, he stops me. He says, sir, you were doing 45 and 25 zone. You're going to pay $75 fine. You're going to lose 3 points on your license, and also you're going to court. Nothing happens to Congress. There are no sanctions in the Constitution. And so in this legislation, I'd like to see something that says, if those two numbers aren't $200 billion difference, each congressman takes a $10,000 hit every month.
Oh, I love that idea.
Every month that they don't meet
this one over here. Now, have you seen his lavish lifestyle? It's incredible.
No, he'd probably be the leader.
Cynthia wears diamonds and furs. It's ridiculous.
But I mean, I think we have to have. But we can't just have. It's so easy to sign your name, and Congress just doesn't honor the Constitution.
Well, that's why it has to be in the Constitution, and I think that's the problem. And I think if I can make a change to this proposal and have it passed, there would be no threshold of votes at all. It would simply be absolute, that under no circumstances, and if we could get it passed with a 2/3 vote, I'll do it. And where you would say maybe only in the circumstances of war, when the country is truly an imminent threat, which is not Iraq and Afghanistan, quite frankly, that in fact, with maybe a 3/5 vote only at that time, would in fact would the country be allowed to go into debt?
All right, so just to wrap this up, to make sure that I understand this, not only do we need to worry about the deficit, which is the yearly overspending or underspending, but we've got to attract this principle we owe.
Which is in this proposal.
The 800-pound gorilla is the debt.
All right.
We're having a party. they're not invited, and they get the bill. It's one of the most unfair.
We've only got a few minutes left. Let me put in two other thoughts. One, you haven't talked about the unfunded mandates to come. Now, I'm worried about the debt as well, but the debt ain't nothing compared to the promises we've made on Medicare and Social Security, which make the debt look like nothing. Am I right on that?
And this report hasn't even quantified the new health care plan, which the reality is this plan is set up to fail. It is set up to fail to a single-payer system, a government-run system. And when has government ever estimated what its true liabilities are? In fact, the plan that was just voted in by the Congress, signed by the President, strips $500 billion out of the Medicare system, a system that's already in financial trouble. And nobody's given me answers as to what the impact on that's going to be.
The Obamacare vote was not for private insurance. This was for a single-payer system. It'll just take us 10, 20 years to get there.
I don't think it'll take that long.
Maybe wrong. But you would also agree with me that these unfunded mandates, including Obamacare, are the threat above the threat. We are facing a brick wall that we're running into, financially speaking.
Well, those are the big part of it. I've heard estimates from $75 to $110 trillion that aren't written anywhere. That's for the next 75 years. And that's in addition to, at least they keep track of it. You can go to the public debt clock and find out the exact debt down to the penny for that second.
And there's one on my website.
Is there?
Yes.
And that website would happen to be what, Mr. Congressman?
Just go to Congressman Mike Coffman, punch it in there, and then boom.
Google.
It comes up right on the front page.
But I want to commend him for the leadership he's shown in Colorado and what he's bringing to the table in the Congress, because I think he's on the way.
Got 2 minutes left. Let me ask you about if you're unsuccessful in getting your 2/3 votes, or if anyone's unsuccessful in getting something. And I understand. I think Fred's point is if you're not attacking the debt, just deficits, you're not solving the problem. I think you're getting around that as well. If you don't get those 2/3 votes in both houses, I hear whispers. It's time for a constitutional convention, and we've had
breakout in hives with that. I think it's happening right now.
Yeah, and there's some people, even in my movement, who say, we can have a constitutional convention if we take the scope really narrow. I know it's been 200 years since we had one, but we can do it, and we can narrow it, saying we're only going to deal with fiscal issues, so we don't have to worry about people changing the Constitution. Is it time for that?
Well, I just said if we don't get our hands around this, and I think that you're already having people demagogue this issue in the Congress saying that there's not a problem, and yet the time bomb is ticking, and it's about whether or not we're even going to have a country. And so, you have to look at it in that context. As to what would a constitutional convention be better than not having a country at all? Because if we continue down this path, it won't be long.
But I maintain we ought to start following the Constitution. That would be a good start.
So if he doesn't get some of this remedy done by congressional means, should the states call a convention?
He can't do it. It's the people. The people are waiting for him to save them. They're waiting for Barack Obama.
But if the people can't get him to do it, we've only got a couple seconds left. Help me. Do you want a constitutional convention should this fail?
Absolutely not. Never. No. No way.
Because you're worried about all the damage that might come with it.
The original there's only been one constitutional convention, and it did exactly what
and it worked. Fred, thank you. Congressman, thank you. And most of all, thank you. Tell a friend about the Independence Institute. Check us out at independenceinstitute.org. Listen for me late nights on 950 KOA. Tell a friend. We'll see you next week.